Go inside the Crimson Tide with your hosts Rodney Orr and Gary Harris, keeping you informed on everything Alabama. Tider Insider TV, brought to you by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports.
And hello again, everybody. I'm Gary Harris. Welcome into Tider Insider TV, as mentioned, brought to you by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports. Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com joins me as always, and we got a jam-packed show, Rodney. In fact, anytime you get a commitment for Alabama football, it's a good thing, but it's particularly good when it's on Tuesday afternoon before TITV. And it happened today. It didn't take long for Alabama to receive some great news after that first official visit weekend for the 2025 signing class over the weekend. And earlier this afternoon, Duncanville, Texas, four-star quarterback Keelon Russell flipped his commitment from SMU to Alabama. You had hinted at that on TiderInsider.com. The 6'3", 180-pound QB has thrown for close to 6,000 yards and 60 touchdowns and leading his team to back-to-back 6A state titles in Texas. And you know the kind of high school football they have out there. Impressive. Russell made an official visit to Alabama over the weekend. Now, Alabama offensive coordinator Nick Saban evaluated several quarterbacks during the spring evaluation period, but this was the only new offer extended. Rodney, they zeroed in on this guy, even though he was committed to SMU. You could kind of feel the flip coming. It happened today. It moves Alabama's recruiting class up from number 8 to number 6, according to On3. He has already said he's going to be an active recruiter for Alabama. He is canceling his other visits and that he's shutting it down. His impact could also help Alabama with five-star receiver Derion Reid, his teammates. So that's a lot I put in there, but just kind of pick it up on what this means for Alabama to go ahead and get that quarterback locked up for 2025.
Yeah, you always want to get that quarterback locked up. There's no doubt about that, Gary. When you look at him, a very talented kid, over 6,000 yards passing the last couple of years, 60 touchdowns versus only 12 interceptions. Only threw 3 picks last year. But, Gary, here's the big thing. Not only is he productive in terms of the statistics, his team is really, really good. Mm-hmm. They're a powerhouse in the state of Texas. They won back-to-back 6A state championships, and that's against some of the best competition in the country. So I really look at him and I say this is a fantastic pickup for Kalen DeBoer and the coaching staff. Nick Saban did a fantastic job as well.
I mentioned Derion Reid. If you're going to be an active recruiter, you might as well start with your teammate who's a five-star receiver.
Yeah, Alabama's had some success at school. Remember, Kendrick Blackshire was from the same school. But, Derion Reid is, I think he's rated the number 1 wide receiver. When you watch him on tape, you can see why. Certainly, I hope that Keelon Russell has some impact on his decision right now. Ohio State, Oregon, Texas, those 3. He was originally committed to LSU, but maybe this gets Alabama in the door.
All right, logical question is, will he be the only quarterback Alabama takes in this cycle, or do you think they might offer someone else, or will they shut it down?
I think where they are right now, he would probably be the only quarterback that they would take in this class. And you look at the kind of where they are in terms of the quarterback room right now. They did a really good job of hanging on to those guys. Quarterbacks are hard to keep out of that transfer portal. But no, I would think right now Keelon Russell would probably be the only quarterback in this class.
You've watched the video of him. You see he's also an outstanding athlete in addition to being a terrific passer. What do you like most about Russell, Rodney?
I like a lot of things about him. I don't know about most, but I will say this. He is a very, very athletic kid. No doubt about that, the ability to run. But he is a passer first. Mm-hmm. This guy's played in a system, knows how to throw the football, knows how to read defenses, those types of things. He's been really well schooled in this program. So that's a really important thing. You look at him, Gary, the way he runs a little bit. There's been some comparisons to Jaden Daniels a little bit. Kind of has that same build, mm-hmm. That long, lean build. But, again, a really talented kid's won a lot of high school football games.
All right, big news today, but there could be more coming, as we already alluded to. The dead period ended, and the first weekend of recruiting was big for Alabama. The Tide brought in 12 visitors, including 3 commitments, Derick Smith, Zymear Smith, and Lotzeir Brooks. And now, of course, it's 4 with the addition of Keelon Russell. Offensive tackle Ty Haywood, linebacker Jaden Perlott, tight end Andrew Olish, running back Jordan Davison, quarterback Chuck McDonald, running back Todd Robinson, athlete Jamarian Morrow, and defensive lineman Charles House were among those in attendance. Rodney, what's your vibe on this particular group that came in this first weekend?
Well, you mentioned Ty Haywood, a 5-star offensive tackle. He's also from the state of Texas, Denton Ryan High School. Talked to a lot of people that have played the position in the SEC, starters, and they say, look, this guy is a potential top 15 pick in about 3 years. Oklahoma's been kind of the team that everyone's talked about, but I think this visit here is originally from the state of Mississippi, grew up following Alabama quite a bit. I think he was extraordinarily impressed with what he saw, the feeling, the vibe. Look at him, Gary. I mean, look at that frame that he has for a 17-year-old kid. It's pretty phenomenal. But again, you mentioned some of the other kids. I think Santa Ana Mater Dei corner Chuck McDonald's a guy that had a great visit. Listen for him. There's a good chance I think Alabama could land him. You mentioned Jordan Davis and his teammates, a fantastic running back. And again, a lot of top kids that you listed in that group, Gary, and they've got more coming this weekend.
Yeah, let me ask you about Michael Carroll.
Wow, that's the guy this weekend. I really like Michael Carroll out of Doylestown, Pennsylvania. 6'6", 300-pound offensive lineman, 6'5". Guy can play interior, possibly play tackle. Watch him move here. You know, he may not be 6'6", Gary, may be 6'4", 6'5", but again, he's a high-quality player.
You know, we've been talking about this, and I know you get a lot of questions on Tider Insider. I get questions on social media about it. You know, how is Alabama recruiting? You know, is it the same as Saban? I don't know if it's the same because it's different staffs, but from what I have seen, and I want to get your take, it looks very similar. They're recruiting nationwide. They're recruiting a lot of highly rated prospects, and at the same time, identifying guys that they like, maybe that maybe aren't as highly rated. Nick Saban did that too. So I don't see much of a drop-off right now.
No, look, I think it's very similar when you look at the guys they have lined up for visits, the guys that I think that they're really in good position with. And you talked about evaluating players. I think a great example of that, you mentioned Lotzeir Brooks out of Millville, New Jersey, the receiver. I mean, this guy's off the charts. I mean, he's got incredible ability. Alabama was really kind of one of the first, well, really the first major power that started recruiting him, got in on him early, got that commitment, and he's a big-time prospect.
Fans have said they want a good recruiting update. Well, they got it tonight. Thanks, Rod. Still to come on Tider Insider Television, 2 Alabama basketball players withdraw from the NBA draft and return to school, and Alabama's roster now appears to be loaded. Plus, Alabama softball run at the Women's College World Series came to an end this week. We'll take a look back at the last month, which was filled with a lot of big wins and some highlights, and we'll have it for you. And we'll be getting your phone calls, emails, and tweets. As always, the phone number, 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. There's the email address. Emails have been slacking off just a little bit lately, so it's wide open, TITV@WVUA23.com. We'd love to hear from you, Tider Insider Nation. We'll be right back with the only show that takes you inside the Alabama Crimson Tide, Tider Insider TV. Television brought to you by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports. Visit Tuscaloosa. Alongside Tider Insiders Rodney Orr, I'm WVUA 23 Sports Director Gary Harris. Decision time last week for Jarin Stevenson and Mark Sears, and both made the decisions Alabama fans were hoping for. They decided to withdraw from the NBA draft and return to the University of Alabama. Sears and Stevenson have withdrawn, as we mentioned, from the draft, and that gives Alabama an incredible roster. Sears was one of the best players in college basketball last season, earning second-team AP All-American honors and first-team All-SEC recognition. He led Alabama to the Final Four with several big games in the NCAA tournament. The Muscle Shows product averaged 21.5 points, shooting 44% from three, 4.2 rebounds, and 4.0 assists, spearheading one of the country's fastest-paced and most potent offenses. And it doesn't stop there for the Tide. The 6'10" freshman forward Jarin Stevenson, who will be a sophomore, withdrew his name. He was crucial in Alabama's Final Four run. Had 19 in that Elite Eight game versus Clemson. So he's back. Alabama's roster, as we mentioned, for 2024-2025 on paper, I can't imagine there's one more talented than this. Let me bring Rodney in. For Sears, who was, as an AP second-team All-American, recognized as one of the top 10 players in the country. There's 5 on the first team, 5 on the second team. A guy who was the heart and soul of this team. For you to get another season out of Mark Sears, I don't think that it's shocking, but at the same time, you couldn't have counted on it. So how big is this in your mind, Rodney?
To me, I mean, you hit it. I mean, you said heart and soul. That's exactly what I was going to say. That's what he is. And to be able to get the heart and soul back, I mean, that says it all. The guy just was the leader of this team. His leadership coming back, the experience that he has, I mean, that says it.
John Rothstein of CBSSports.com is Alabama #1 in his preseason rankings. FanDuel has Alabama's current national championship odds at second best in the country. So I don't want to say national championship or bust because Alabama never made it to the Final Four until this past season. Still, that that's going to be the expectation. Now, not just to get to the Final Four, but to get there and win the whole shooting match.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I mean, again, you know the expectations after this Final Four run. I can judge it by TiderInsider.com. They're expecting nothing less than a Final Four, if not an undefeated season.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, but really, you talked about this roster being stacked. I mean, now fans are saying, how are we going to keep them all happy? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's a loaded roster. Nate Oates, his staff did a really great job.
Yeah, let me just rattle it off for you. If you follow Alabama basketball, this is it. Mark Sears, Grant Nelson, Latrell Wrightsell Jr., Jarin Stevenson, Mo Diabate, Derrion Reid, Aiden Sherrill, Nas Cunningham, Houston Millette, Chris Youngblood, Aiden Holloway, LeBaron Philon, and Cliff Amori. Like we said, they haven't practiced, they haven't played a game, but on paper, they look as good as anybody.
They're saying the second five's the top 20 team
in the country. It is going to be a lot of fun. All right, let's move on. Softball's run at the Women's College World Series in Oklahoma City came to an end on Sunday evening at the hands of the SEC rival Florida Gators. Crimson Tide battled hard in this one. They kept it tied through 4 innings on the game and in the losers bracket, but a 3-run home run by Jocelyn Erickson off Alabama relief pitcher Ailey Johnson, who had not pitched in a month. It was an interesting decision by Patrick Murphy to bring her in. That kind of broke it open, giving Florida a 6-2 lead. Alabama fought back, had it 6-4 in the 6th inning, and had the winning run at the plate, but they come up short. Then Florida went on to beat Oklahoma yesterday and then lost to the Sooners in 8 innings today, 6-5. So it will be Florida and Texas on Wednesday for the first game. Florida and Texas, Oklahoma and Texas, excuse me. Big 12 matchup in their final year before they come to the SEC for the national championship. That's 2 out of 3 series. But let's get back to Alabama. And Alabama had beaten Duke to get to the elimination game against Florida. Had an early lead, and then it's a tight ball game. We know that Beaver pitched a lot. Brisky had been pitching in this game, but the decision to bring in Ailey Johnson against Jocelyn Erickson, your SEC Player of the Year, it confused some fans. And now if she comes in and gets the out, then everybody's singing a different tune, but she didn't. She gave up that blast, and that kind of changed the game. What did you think about that, Rod?
Well, you know, again, I mean, that's Patrick Murphy's decision there. He knows his personnel, and that's what he felt like he needed to do. So it's kind of hard to question that, without knowing all the details for sure. But you know what? I think we ought to just look at this as overall the way this team played, the adversity that they overcame to get where they were. Yeah, you certainly would have liked to have extended it and kept going. And you know what? I mean, I think the showing that they had against Florida in this in the College World Series, Gary, I think it shows, look, this team could play with anybody. Yeah. Because, Florida goes out, they beat the mighty Oklahoma Sooners. They almost beat them again. So we know one thing, though. The SEC in softball is going to be really tough.
And Alabama did finish as one of the top 6 teams since they won a game out there. So it was a great finish to the season, which was rocky at times. But Coach Murphy pointed it out, man. We made it back to Oklahoma City. And now it's time for Coach Talk. Speaking of Murph, Alabama softball hit its stride in the postseason. The Tide was one of 2 SEC teams to reach the Women's College World Series, despite having a losing record in SEC play. Murph said after he was asked about this group and what they would be remembered for, he said they're going to be remembered for some really good stuff.
I thought we played really well down the stretch, and it's a team whose legacy is going to be they did not give up on each other. They kept working. It doesn't matter what you do, regular season. You get a whole new start, and you can start fresh. And I think they proved to everybody that, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. A great lesson for a lot of teams.
And all the good news, but there was some negative news if you're an Alabama fan that came out on Monday evening. Alabama sophomore shortstop Kinley Cahalan entered the transfer portal in 2 seasons at Alabama. She was an All-SEC second-team selection this past season. In her freshman season, she was third-team All-Region. She has a .290 career batting average with 9 home runs, 4 doubles, and 65 runs scored. She started all 53 games for the Crimson Tide this season. But in Sunday's loss to Florida, she went 0 for 3 with 2 strikeouts and was pinch hit for in the 7th inning as the Crimson Tide lost to the Gators 6-4. Cahalan attended Hewitt-Trussville High School before graduating early and enrolling at Alabama when she was 17. She was the #1 ranked overall player in the 2023 signing class by Perfect Game Softball. Cahalan is the first player from Alabama softball to enter the transfer portal this offseason. I got to ask you, Rodney, this is a very talented player. She's been a really good player. Maybe she hasn't been a superstar. I think she's got superstar potential. Now, is there a chance she could come back to Alabama? I don't know if Patrick Murphy's going to try to talk with her parents. But if she leaves, I think it's a big loss, and I think that she could go somewhere else, maybe in the SEC, and have a superstar career going forward.
Well, you know what? Let's hope she does come back, but it obviously doesn't look like that's going to happen right now. Extraordinarily talented, as you mentioned, Gary. I mean, to be able to recruit players like that, you get them, you like to be able to keep them. But, with that transfer portal, this is the way it's going to kind of be. And it's unfortunate with her because, again, she's an in-state product, highly recruited, and a girl that had a lot of potential for this program.
Yeah, but Alabama may lose some more players to the portal. You never know, but they're also going to be bringing some in as well. All right, still to come on TITV, Alabama baseball had its season come to an end in the postseason as well down at the Tallahassee Regional. We'll have a recap of that weekend as well. And up next, we'll be welcoming your phone calls, emails, and tweets. Phone lines are open right now at 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. You can also email us at the address on your screen. We want to hear from you, Tider Insider Nation. And we'll do that next when TITV returns right here on WVUA 23. Well, Alabama baseball saw its season come to an end after falling to Stetson on Saturday in the Tallahassee Regional. Stetson got the bats rolling for some early runs, and Alabama's offense just never got going in this one. A really disappointing loss. They fall 4-0. They had lost on the previous evening to Central Florida in a heartbreaker 8-7. So they go 0-2 in the regional after that 4-0 loss to Stetson. Alabama's first year under Rob Vaughn does end an NCAA regional, but not getting a win was disappointing. But still, I love Coach Vaughn. I think the direction this program is going to go in, Rod. And I do think it's going to get better. It almost felt like they just kind of ran out of gas, not having a really deep roster, having some injuries, and they were really good early in the SEC schedule, pretty good through most of it. Toward the end of the year, fell off, and then going 0-2 in the regional was kind of a bummer.
Yeah, but I think, too, like you said, his first year, I think you look at his track record, the success that he had at Maryland, the way he can build a program. Mm-hmm. I've got a lot of confidence in him. He's a young coach, really enthusiastic, energetic. I think a lot of players like him in the recruiting process.
Yeah, I think he's going to recruit real well, too. All right, let's get out on the phone lines, and we're going to start off with our pal Bill Taylor, BT, right here in Tuscaloosa. Good evening, BT.
How you doing, Gary?
Doing great.
I want to ask how many players we got coming back. I know, is it 4 or 5?
You talking about for basketball? All right, let me pull that roster up again, BT. And just kind of run it down for you. All right, Sears. These are players that are returning. Sears is coming back. Nelson is coming back. Reitzel Jr. is coming back. Stevenson is coming back. Diabate is coming back. And I think that's it. I think everybody else will be new. But, Reed, Sherrill, Cunningham, Millette, Youngblood, Holloway, Philon, and Amori all coming in new. But you got those 5 players returning, and we talked about the 8 newcomers, whether they're portal or freshmen. This is a stacked roster. But, 5 players coming back from a Final Four team and 5 really good players. So they'll kind of be the core because they've got the experience. But you add in those new guys, and again, you got to go out and do it. Okay, you got to go out and do it on the floor. But on paper, Rodney, this is you couldn't ask for anything more if you're an Alabama fan.
And I think when you look at it, a lot of people thought, hey, Cliff Omori would be the final piece that you needed, the 6'11" rim protector, and to be able to go out and fend off North Carolina and some other top programs for him, I thought that was really big.
Thank you, BT. Let's get to our email question today, brought to you by KDM Service Corporation. When it comes to heating and air conditioning, KDM Service Corporation serves your family like our family. All right, here it is from Ricky in Tuscaloosa. Do you guys expect any more softball players to transfer? Great question, Ricky. I don't know is the answer. If you ask me if I expect it, probably, because I think every team is going to lose some players and every team is going to gain some players. I don't think in the portal era, Rodney, I just don't think you're going to have any team in a major sport in college that everybody that's eligible to come back for the next season is going to come back anywhere. I just think that's the nature of what we're dealing with.
Exactly. I think it happens, and that's why when we talked about, some of the other transfers, potential transfers, that, you got to come to expect that. It's going to happen.
Yep. 205-348-9882 is the phone number. We've got the phone lines open right now. Go ahead and give us a call. 205-348-9882. We'll be back with more phone calls and emails. Stay with us here on TITV. Earlier this week, the National Football Foundation released the names of 77 players and 9 coaches from the FBS placed on the ballot to be named to the College Football Hall of Fame. As is often the case, Alabama well represented. I think Nick Saban is a guarantee to go in. He's eligible immediately because he's over 70 years old. Usually coaches have to wait 3 years. Mark Ingram won a Heisman. I think he's going to get in. And listen, I think Chris Samuels has got a great case as well. When Saban goes in, that'll give Alabama 5 head coaches in the College Football Hall of Fame. Wallace Wade, Frank Thomas, Gene Stallings, the late great Paul Bear Bryant, and of course Nick Saban. So we'll look forward to that. All right, let's get an email in before we have to get to the break. Let's get to an email question. We got time for one, and it is from Lloyd in Northport. Did Kareem Jackson retire? Good question. No, he did not. He is a free agent. He has not been signed. I think he's played 15 years in the league, but he is not officially signed. Of course, he's dealing with the fact that he's one of the hardest hitters in the NFL, and he's gotten a lot of penalties and a lot of suspensions. I don't know if he's done or not, Rodney. We'll just have to wait and see. Thanks for all the phone calls, and thanks for all of the emails. Tonight, we're going to get one more email in before we get to the break. We'll get one more. We got time, I'm told. Where is Tommy Reese now? That's from Marion, Tuscaloosa. He is with the Cleveland Browns. Rodney, I'm not sure what I know he's an assistant coach. I don't know if he's an offensive assistant, quarterback's coach, but I know he's with the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, I think he was tight ends, working with the tight ends, but I'm not really sure. But it's an interesting move for him, a guy that's been on the college level for so long.
Yeah. Thanks for those phone calls and emails. Still to come, an incoming Alabama freshman, Derrion Reid, on the basketball team has been impressive playing for the national under-18 team in Argentina. We got the highlights next. Alabama basketball signee Derrion Reid, a 6'8 forward, made his Team USA debut for the under-18 U.S. national team against Argentina. Had a really good game, 10 points and 8 rebounds as Team USA won 88-66. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of Tider Insider TV, presented by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports. If you missed any of the show, we got a replay coming at 10:30 tonight or anytime at WVOA23.com. We're going to leave you with some video of Kalen DeBoer and some of the Alabama football players with the NASCAR experience today on the Walk of Champions. How cool is that? For Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a good night.